Now let's see how we can add this little detail on the sides. We can actually see it on this view as well. So it's a small cut there. Let's see how we can take care of that. The way I'm gonna do this is it will allow us to introduce you to some very useful nodes and techniques that are really powerful and kind of common on other 3D applications. So I think it makes sense for us to go over that. What we're going to be doing is basically applying a Boolean operation here on the side. We're going to be literally carving the sides with that shape. The Boolean system inside Houdini is absolutely amazing. So we'll start by creating a curve, holding tab, curve, and let's make this visible. That's going to hide what we had so far, and in this case it's exactly what we want. The curve allows us to create curves. Let's just give you an example. If you go into the 3D space with your curve operator, curve node selected, you can just type enter, hit enter, and then you can just draw the curve as you see fit. Okay, when you're done, you press enter, and that's done. Basically, what you're going to be getting here is the coordinates of the points that you're actually creating. Okay, you have a list of points that you're creating. That's all we need to do. So I'm going to remove all of these, Control A to select everything, press delete, and no points. So let's put ourselves on the front view, and we want to create, again, we're gonna just concern ourselves with half of the shape, and then we just use the symmetry system that we used on the previous shape as well, on the previous part of the model. And what I want is make sure that this goes through here, 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 and all the way straight. Hit enter. So since this curve was created on the front view, I know that it's going to be created, these points, all these points have a depth of 0 because they're being created on the XY plane. Now let's type spacebar 1, go back to the 3D view. Okay, this is what I was trying to do. And let's have a look at the list. I'm gonna kind of make this bigger. So we know that this point, all these points have the same z value. And we can see here, this is the x coordinate, the y coordinate, and the z coordinate. All of them have 0 in z. That's great. Now I just need to make sure that this point and this point have the same height. So we can just make sure that the y coordinate is exactly the same for the first and for the second point. So let's select this. They're pretty close, but they're not exactly the same. So we're just going to make sure that they're exactly the same. Control V. You notice that there was a small nudge there. And I want to make sure that this point, the third point, and the fourth point have exactly the same height. So I'm going to do the same thing, just going to go to the coordinates of the third point and grab the y coordinate and apply it to the y coordinate of the last point. Control V. And now they're perfectly planar. Okay. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to use this shape to kind of apply, to make it thick, give it thickness, actually a 3D existence. Gonna hit escape just to get out of the gizmo for the curve. We do have a node that does that automatically. So if you type tab, polywire, and we connect this here, polywire will give thickness to your curves. Okay, so we control the radius, we control the how many divisions you have. Okay, we can have it be rounder, but by default it has 4, and 4 is going to be with this angle, and we kind of don't really want this. Polywire is great, but it doesn't really give us a lot of control about the section that you're going to be using. So instead of using this, we're going to define a section first, and we're going to see how we can kind of sweep that section along our spline. Now, so I'm going to create a section, and that section is going to be basically just a square, just a square plane. I'm going to type grid. On most applications, a plane is called a plane. On Houdini, when you want to create a planar surface, it's called a grid. Now we have a grid. It's going to be huge, not really what we want. We want it much smaller. So let's make sure that it's really, really small, 0.005 by 0.0025. Let's zoom in on that. Let's press F to frame what we have. We also don't need all these divisions, these rows and columns. We basically just need to have this be 2 and 2. Great. And now we have the curve, which is going to be our path. I'm going to get rid of the polywire. Let's just leave it here to the side. We have our section and we have our path. What we're going to be doing is using an operator that's going to take these two elements, the section and the path, and it's going to generate a mesh based on these two. Let's hit tab and type sweep. Now on this, whenever you have multiple inputs, or usually inputs and outputs will have some tips on what you need. If it has these red arrows, it means that these inputs are absolutely necessary for the operator to work properly. So here we need the cross section, and here we need the backbone, which is basically the path. Let's frame on this. I'm going to hit F here. And this is what we got. Let's hide this for a moment. Hide other objects. This is what we have. Not exactly what we were going for. So we need to take care of a few things. The first thing we need to do is make sure that the curve has enough information for it to know how to apply these sections to them. And there's a great, very useful operator called polyframe. I'm going to type polyframe. In polyframe, you connect, if you connect a curve, it's going to calculate based on two edges. It's going to calculate the normal and the tangent of the curve. Okay, so let's have a look at what this looks like. The normal, it's really easy for us to have a look at the normal. We can just come here, and the same way we can turn on points, we can turn on normals. Okay, and now we have our normals. These are just representations of vectors of an attribute called normal that's being saved on each one of the points. This is a visual representation, but we can actually see the values for these attributes on each one of the points. The way to access that is by, if you're using technical, you will have the geometry spreadsheet right here. This is the geometry spreadsheet, and we're looking at the parameters, the attributes for the points. And right now, each point has position, x, y, and z, normal, which is a vector of x, y, and z as well, and a tangent, x, y, and z. We have three attributes, all of them vectors. If we select the curve here before the polyframe, you'll notice that we only have positions. So they're just points in space with no other information besides position. With the polyframe, we're telling it to give us the normal and the tangent. And these are going to be used by the sweep in order to know how to orient the grid. But we're now looking at the normal. Let's see how we can have a look at the tangent. To have a look at an attribute in Houdini 17.5, it's really, really easy. Now you can just, if you middle mouse button on an operator, it's going to give you a few informations. It's going to tell you how many points, how many primitives you have, center, minimum and max and size. And it's also going to tell you which attributes you have, which groups you have, etc. Now we know we have these three attributes and we're looking at the normals, but we would also like to be able to look at the tangent. So how can we do that? We just hit Control, hold Control and click with the middle mouse button on your operator. What this is going to do is gives us exactly the same information, but on a floating window that's not going to disappear if when you let go the middle mouse button. And now you can click on the attribute that you want to see, and it's going to show you. Okay, so here, this is the tangent that we have for that spline. We can change the style, the way it's being calculated, to first edge, and this is actually more correct in this case. Now, if we connect this here and we get to the sweep, let me just make sure that we disable the normals, and I also want to disable the tangents. Holding Control, middle mouse button, this comes up again, and I just click again on the attribute that I no longer want to see, and it's done. So we now have a better orientation. We just need to make sure that these are facing on another way. So the way for us to change that, remember when we created the grid, it was huge and it was facing up along the ZX plane. It was flat on the ZX plane. Now let's have a look at the sweep. If we change the grid to XY plane, now we have this orientation. Let's try YZ, and this is more what we were going for. Now, at the moment, the sweep is only giving us these planes and the curve. Actually, the output of the sweep, we have a bunch of options, but we wanted to skin these. We wanted to actually give us a mesh. So let's say we want skin with auto closure. And this is what we get.